In today's episode of The Marketplace, Governor of the Bank of Ghana makes a strong case for more donor support to help deal with the economic impacts of COVID-19.
Of the crisis, the bulk of that has been on government expenditures. The government has had to roll out a lot of programs to support, the society and the economy in terms of mitigating the impact.
Also, the IMF forecasts GDP growth rate of 0.9% for this year, lower than that of the World Bank, Fitch and the Bank of Ghana combined.
World Bank is predicting a GDP growth rate that will make the country a top performer in sub-Saharan Africa. Fitch Solutions is predicting a GDP growth rate of 1.3%.
And the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association says the country's housing deficit has worsened over the years. We have more as the mini clinic for the JoyNews Habitat Fair is only just 3 days away.
Unfortunately, the deficit is worsening by the day. I remember in 2010 when UN Habitat, and then at that same time we had a national housing census.
My name is Charles Aite. We have more after this break. Hello, welcome back. Now, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, is making a case for more financial support for the country's donor partners to help deal with the impact of COVID-19. Now, Dr. Addison disclosed this on Bloomberg News, where he was interviewed on the subject of managing the economy after the easing of COVID-19 restrictions.
Impact of the shock in terms of the lockdown was what really surprised everybody, having to wake up and not be able to go to work because we are afraid we have to, in a sense, socially distance from everybody, and the implications of that for an economy which is dominated by an informal sector economy. That was a real shock to everybody. If you look at the impact of the crisis, the bulk of that has been on government expenditures. The government has had to roll out a lot of programs to support, the society and the economy in terms of mitigating the impact on households and businesses. We did get about $1 billion from the IMF. This is the rapid credit facility at the beginning of the year. But it is quite clear that we would need much more than that to be able to, in effect, neutralize the impact of the coronavirus. As we have a well-diversified economy, if you look at the impact on the balance of payments in 2020, other than oil, which has been impacted by the decline in crude oil prices, we have done relatively well with gold exports and cocoa. And therefore, we've been able to, hold steady the level of our gross international reserves. And the plan is to build more reserves this year by an additional 300 million and prepare for 2021, as you're saying, the difficulties of accessing the market in 2021. We will deal with that when we get there. Now, the decision is to do a 10 billion CD bond purchase. As you know, this coronavirus impact is unprecedented. This is a new territory. We all are trying to adapt to a situation which we have never seen before. And therefore, we would have to be very innovative in how we handle it. For now, the plan is to stick to the 10 billion. And we do not anticipate that in 2020 we would have to do more.
Now, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, is forecasting a gross domestic products growth rate of 0.9% for this year. This is a disclosure from its latest World Economic Outlook report. Charles Nixon-Yeboah has been looking through the report and has come through with a story.
Cost is slightly below the ones being projected by the World Bank, Fitch Solutions and the Bank of Ghana, whilst the World Bank is predicting a GDP growth rate that will make the country a top performer in sub-Saharan Africa. Fitch Solutions is predicting a GDP growth rate of 1.3%, also making Ghana an outperformer in the sub-Saharan African region. However, the fund is forecasting a GDP of 4.2% for next year, and that will come as a good omen for government, enterprises, and consumers as tax revenue, earnings of companies, and disposable income are expected to shoot up. The reason is due to an expected significant jump in economic activities that will stimulate demand and supply. With the exception of Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania, the country will outperform 46 sub-Saharan African countries. Growth on the continent will, however, contract by 3%, with both South Africa and Nigeria recording huge negative growth rates.
And we're joined by Assistant Editor Charles Nixon for more on this particular story. Charles, welcome to the program. I mean, this is good news. A growth rate of 0.9%. Was it expected?
Absolutely, because if you look at forecasts by other institutions, the World Bank, Fitch Solutions, World Bank, Bank of Ghana, even though Bank of Ghana is projecting a further growth in the region of about 2%, Fitch Solutions 1.3%, sure. World Bank 1.1%. So clearly it tells you that gradually the economy is being diversified. We have diversified exports, particularly a non-traditional export. Even though oil prices dropped to some extent, as at today it was hovering around $40 to $41. Exactly. Cocoa and gold have seen some significant price pickup on the world market. So the country is earning more in terms of these exports.
Well, when they talk about the overall, growth outlook, were there specifics in terms of the growth areas?
Well, specifically, they were particular about the agriculture sector. We all know government policy, planting for food and jobs, has significantly played a role in terms of keeping agricultural growth high. Agriculture, we all know, was the only sector that recorded a growth rate in the second quarter of this year. That was 2.5%. Services and industry dropped. They contracted actually, but it wasn't as wider as we were expecting. If you look at the ICT sector, which telecom is really doing extremely well in Africa, Ghana is actually third in sub-Saharan Africa in terms of growth in the telecommunication industry. Sure. In the second quarter, we expanded significantly. So despite the impact of COVID, it had not been that significant on, in terms of the negative aspect of the impact, it has not been significant as we were anticipating. So more importantly, if we are going to see some level of growth, then obviously the country will be making some earnings from both tax, direct and non-direct taxes. We will also see some level of profitability from some companies. Great. And we will also see our disposable income being at a certain level that will be okay. If you experience a contraction in an economy, you will see that some numbers will start dropping, and that will not augur well for all of us. So clearly, we would be a top performer in sub-Saharan Africa. We are among few African countries that will record growth rate. If you look at Nigerians' numbers, Nigeria would contract heavily by about 6%. South Africa, which has experienced some turbulence in its economy, will also contract by about 8%. So we are hoping to see a better outlook going forward into 2021 and 2022. And from the projections, we are likely to record over 4% growth in 2021 and 2022. And that will be good, because then again, companies will know that this is what the numbers are telling us. So this is how we are going to plan in terms of our budget. Are we going to hire new employees? Are we going to expand our operations? So, these numbers help in terms of forecasting into the future. So it's somehow good news for the country, but we want to see more in terms of the manufacturing sector. I want to see a sector that will lead the growth, even though services has been dominant for some time now. But the manufacturing sector, as the economists will say, brings in a lot of jobs as far as we are concerned. Because if you grow, manufacture, eat, and wear what you produce, I mean, it's better than in doing a lot of importation. So that's what we are hoping the policymakers will be looking at going forward into the future.
Charles, we're so grateful for that explanation. He broke everything down for us in terms of the growth outlook for Ghana, which is looking quite better as compared to other African economies. But let's move away from that. MTN Ghana says that it has so far invested about $2.5 billion into its monitoring systems to safeguard transactions of mobile money. Now, the telecoms operation system says it is also sensitizing its customers on mobile money fraud. Speaking to Joy Business at a national cybersecurity awareness program on the theme Cybersecurity in the Era of COVID-19, Senior Minister for Compliance at MTN Ghana, Kwame Tamaklo, said that the investment shows his outfit's commitment to ensuring mobile money is safe and secure. Here is more in this report.
Senior Manager for Compliance at MTN Ghana, Kwame Tamaklo, explains to Joy Business that the public must be conscientized on the operations of mobile money fraudsters.
We are doing what we can within the circumstances. A lot of investment has been put into educating people across the country. We are all over the channels, the digital channels, we are on air. And then we are on the grounds in various villages across the country where our sales team are engaging people and educating them on mobile money fraud. What we are also doing in terms of technical side to ensure that we are enhancing our monitoring system of the transactions on our platform. And so there again, about $2.5 million investment is being made to secure that platform.
Meanwhile, acting head of technical operations at E-Crime Bureau, Eric Mensah, says one major thing stakeholders are doing is to educate the public to protect themselves.
We have seen that a lot of the things that the criminals are doing, or the modus operandi that the criminals are using, is based on social engineering. So right now, the major thing that we want to focus, and stakeholders focus on is to educate, because sometimes you have fraud hit person A, that same fraud hits person B, same fraud hits person C. It is really important that when person A gets defrauded, that fraud scheme is reported to the appropriate entities, be the cybersecurity center, the MTN, Vodafone Cash, or whatever, and then alerts will be made so that people will be actually conscientized on what is happening so that they can protect themselves.
The head of research and communications at the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Derek Lai, said collaboration among stakeholders will help protect customers.
The trend continues to grow because the service is growing. So if you've done a bit of research on how the service operates, the more and more people get to use the service, the more and more fraudsters equally grow to want to hoodwink customers, use false representation and stuff like that, to be able to use social engineering antiques to be able to hoodwink customers and take money from them. So I believe that we've done a lot. I believe from the service side, we've done a lot with regards to introducing the right kind of system frameworks, privacy by design technologies, AI and the rest, to be able to safeguard the consumers and vulnerabilities from our side. But more importantly, from the customer side, there's a lot of education that needs to happen. Also on the stakeholder side, there's a lot of collaboration that we need to do, because we have regulation, but regulation in and of itself is very prescriptive. It wants to prevent the fraud from happening, but when the fraud happens, regulation is lagging. So we need a lot of collaboration among stakeholders, the banks, the telcos, coming together to ensure that we can, across a wide spectrum, protect the consumer, so that when there's vulnerability, before it becomes a viable vulnerability or an opportunity for fraud to happen, we probably will be able to tackle it quickly before it happens.
Mildred Dodu's reports for Joy Business.
Well, let's talk about film and the creative arts industry, because investors are currently exploring Ghana's Creative Arts Center. Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, says the demand leaves a challenge on government to make Ghana's creative sector attractive to local and foreign investors. I've been engaging him on not just Ghana's creative sector, but also the scramble for investors across Africa in the face of COVID-19.
The movie making hasn't taken off as a strategic part of our development. And that is where there is some interest. The sad thing, no, I wouldn't say the sad thing. In reality, though, if you look at most countries, movie making and filmmaking and the creative arts have always been undertaken by the private sector. But what governments do is to create the space, and that's the popular word we say is create the enabling environment and create pathways for these innovations to come to the market. And I think that's where we are in Ghana today. And that's why GIPC is partnering with the National Film Authority and also MultiChoice.
We're looking at the USA, we're talking of $1.3 trillion, you know, when it comes to the capital from the film industry, from Hollywood. We're looking at Bollywood, the figures are astounding. Here in Africa, the players are just South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and even Nigeria. Ghana often doesn't, you know, pull up its own weight. Where do we see the position of the GIPC in streamlining investments towards this sector?
Well, our job really is to bring in foreign direct investments as part of our economic growth agenda and create linkages and partnerships to deliver these things. I mean, all I'll say to you is the world should watch out. Ghana is coming out. I believe that we have the creativity, we have the innovations to make them happen. And we are, though we are a small country, we have a certain cultural diversity that is extremely interesting. And if we package it well and are able to create product out of that, we'll see some very interesting things. I mean, and I would not say that Ghana is short or lacking the creative space. I mean, my own very good friend, Sir David Ajay, is now a globally renowned architect. He's Ghanaian. He set up his office in Ghana. Although he has offices in New York, London, he has his office now, his main office in Ghana. And that should tell you something, because even he has identified that there is something good happening here that we could actually use as a stepping stone for bigger fortunes.
Ghana is opening up. I mean, economists world over are opening up. What's going to be that distinctive, you know, plan that we're going to be putting out to the world as investors now reposition their capital wings?
You know, I always say that the Ghana story can be summarized as the 3 O's. The 3 O's. The first O is opportunity. We are a resource-rich country. We also have land-rich. I mean, we have gold, we have diamonds, we have oil and gas. But apart from that, we also have land. We have significant land that we can use for food security as well as part of our industrial growth. So all those opportunities are there. But we are also relatively, compared to other countries, endowed with good human capital. And so we are doing significant reforms in the ease of doing business and ease of investment to ensure that we create an economy that embraces all and it's easier to work with. Because that's how countries grow.
Is there a rush for investors across Africa?
Oh, there is, definitely. Everybody wants their country to grow. Everybody is looking for capital. Then the last O is optimism. And why do I say optimism? Look, over the past 3 years, I said Ghana's economy has had one of the fastest growing rates globally, not even in West Africa, globally. And so that gives the investor the confidence that, oh, this is a country that knows what it's doing and where it's going.
Well, the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association says Ghana's housing deficit has worsened over the years. According to Greta, a national housing census conducted pointed out that the housing deficit, which stood at 1.7 million housing units in 2010, has increased to over 2 million housing units as of last year. Speaking with Joy Business's Emma Davis, Samuel Amegayibo called on government to reduce taxes on housing development to enable the average Ghanaian own or rent a house.
Unfortunately, the deficit is worsening by the day. I remember in 2010 when UN Habitat, and then at that same time we had a national housing census conducted. So the two data combined together, they were able to determine that our housing deficit was 1.7 million at that time. And if you look at how much we needed over a 10-year period, vis-a-vis what we are able to supply on the market, we realized that there was a big shortfall. And so adding on from that time, that is why we were able to say that as of last year or so, we then said that the deficit has gone up from the 1.7 million to over 2 million. And so we haven't done very well to overcome it, but we as private estate developers like Grida, we are working in a very harsh environment, and so we are doing our best. But when it comes to affordable housing, there has to be commitment from government to make it possible.
Based on our income level, how would you describe the flexibility? What's the flexibility level in acquiring, a house?
Well, you've touched a very important aspect of why we are having a challenge, because the general earnings of Ghanaians is very low. And so if you look at the various mortgage products that we have on the market, it only favors those who are in the upper bracket. And so if you had listened to the conversation we had on Joy FM, for example, you realize that Republic Bank was saying that the government housing mortgage that has been launched, for example, which is going for 11.9% with them, vis-a-vis what the general market is at 24%. It is targeted at the private sector.
Well, let's still stay on the housing sector, especially as we get up for the JoyNews' Habitat Fair, because a house cannot be complete without affordable and durable access to potable water. Innovations have seen the construction sector come up with good ways of connecting water to the house. Well, ahead of the JoyNews Habitat Fair, which is just a few days away, we feature one such company, Duraplast, on the packages to look out for during the two-day mini clinic slated for Saturday and Sunday this weekend. Head of Sales at Duraplast, Emmanuel Fori-Entry, joins us via Zoom. Welcome to the program, Emmanuel. First of all, refresh our minds on what Duraplast does, because we understand that you've added on to your product portfolio.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the program, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
So as I asked early on, if you could hear me, would want to find out from you, to what end have you added on to your product portfolio?
Okay, we have the top brand now, which is the water tank. And we have the septic tank, which is a solution to sewage problems. We have PVC and UPVC pipes and fittings for plumbing. We have the UPVC pipe casing for borehole drilling. We have the conduit pipes for electrical wiring. We also have the water sand. When there is construction going on, you have to barricade some areas you think are not safety.
Yeah.
So we have water-filled and sand-filled barricades, safety barriers for barricading construction site.
Interesting.
We also,
Interesting. Well, you must be, I believe, marking time for the much anticipated Habitat Fair. Tell us what range of products to expect at the mini clinic with a hindsight on COVID-19.
Good. One major product is the CD wash station. This is a hand washing station which comes with inlet and outlet, just like we have for our tanks. You don't need to manually fetch water unless, of course, you want. But then there's a connector or inlet at the top to fill the tank itself. Then also at the base, the bottom, there is an outlet where you can connect to a drainage or a gutter. Meaning, we don't want you to get in contact with the wastewater or the dirty water which you wash your hand with again.
Okay.
So the water will flow through the outlet to any drainage or gutter around you.
That's quite impressive.
And they come in two sizes.
That's quite impressive.
The 60 liter, the 60 liter and the 40 liter.
Great. Well, any special discounts for patrons? Because, when our people come over, all they're looking out for is discounts, quality products. What are going to be the discounts?
Yes, exactly. We have such promotion for visitors to the Habitat Fair, which is coming on Saturday and Sunday at the Western Mall. We are planning some package for them, but then I'll not disclose it right now. But there's a package for them. There's going to be a discount and some giveaways on that on those 2 days.
Great. That's nice. We just can't, wait to see what happens on Saturday and Sunday, the mini clinics of the JoyNews Habitat Fair. It's all about housing. You may not want to miss out on that. That's how we end this edition of The Marketplace. I'm Charles I. To do. Stay tuned.